everybody. Hope everyone's enjoying their Sunday. How is everybody today? Just fair warning, we're gonna have a slight interruption. I'm getting delivered coffee. I was kind of hoping it would be before my stream, but you know, things don't work out that way. Okay. Oh, hi everybody. Oh, it makes me so happy that people really enjoy the live streams. It really does. It makes me just so happy. How's everyone today? Everyone's having a nice Sunday. It's super rainy and cloudy here. It's been like that for a while in New York. It's like always raining, I feel like. Aw, you guys are too sweet. Oh, Moo's here. Say hello. Come here. Say hi, everybody. You say hello? She's like, okay, you can put me down now. All right, there's your Moo sighting. But she'll probably be causing chaos because, yeah, she causes chaos when I'm on the bed. Okay, well, thank you for popping in. Oh, you have your cat with you too. That's nice. Go lay down. Are we all really, really excited to talk about communicating with deities? Because I have so much to talk about. I know I made a podcast episode like a while ago, but now, no. We can do this every time I do a live stream. There's so much more now, thanks to just experiences and concerns and my own experiences changing and evolving. So there's a lot to talk about. Hello, everybody. So much to talk about. I definitely want to make an updated podcast episode because there is so much. I don't know if I'm going to get to everything here, but I want to get to the bulk of it. But I want to talk, but I also want to discuss with you guys. I want to hear what you guys have to say on the topic. And I want this kind of be a little bit more like a discussion than my podcast episodes where it's just me talking at you guys, you know? Which I'm going to start calling this Sunday Tea now, I decided, because I like that name. I think it's cute. I like it because, of course, it relates to tea with the gods, but also, no, I love you, but come on. What was I saying? See, you made me forget what I was saying. Oh, congratulations on becoming a Dionysus devotee. Oh, that's wonderful. Can you guys, because my thing is saying my connection is unstable and they're going to try reconnecting. Can you guys see me? Am I still good? I hope so. Okay, good. Let's see. I want to do Sunday tea because it relates to tea with the gods. And also, I like that it doesn't have any religious wording in it because I know that for some people that can be triggering or people just don't want any of that mixed in with their spirituality or their paganism and everything. So I think Sunday tea is really just cute because it's us just kind of coming together like at a little tea party and just spilling the tea, right? Spilling and sipping the tea, which is like my whole thing. Hello. Yeah, Hermes has teamed up with Moo Kitty. Yes. Yes. I don't know what it is, but every time I sit on the bed, she just gets very like clingy and needy. And this is why I need a desk. I have to get one soon because I can't keep dealing with you. I love you, but we got stuffs to do here, okay? The people came to talk about communicating with deities, not to deal with you. Okay. Hi. So, I guess we should get. I love you, but you're so annoying. I guess we can dive right in. Oh, that makes me so happy. I'm happy that this could be part of your healing journey. I love that. I really enjoy doing these streams because I just like that we all can just come together as a community and hang out, talk, share our experiences, introduce each other to like different ways to worship and different ideas. I love that shit. So this is like my favorite thing. It's funny because I used to not like Sundays too much because it was always like, ugh, then I have to start my week again, like, oh, I have to go to work and everything. I like my job, but the whole getting up and doing the whole thing is sometimes like you just don't want to do it. But now I like really look forward to Sundays. I'm like, oh, I get to talk to my community. This is going to be fun. Hello, everybody joining in. Okay. Let's get into it then. Since I said we have a lot to talk about. I'm sorry, my cat. She just. No, I love you. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Held her wrong. Anyway. Okay. You all right? I'm sorry. Okay. Communicating with deities. There are a variety of methods to go about doing it. I think one of the most popular is, hey Melanie, one of the most popular is divination. And there's also thoughts and feelings. There's also like, you have like certain thoughts and certain feelings kind of come over you. There's channeling, there's meditation, there's astral travel, there's signs and messages that you can receive. So there's like a variety of different ways that we can go about communicating with deities. The thing to remember though, is that because there's so many different methods you're not going to necessarily do all of them, or even just be good at all of them. Think about, when I was thinking, kind of taking notes, I was kind of thinking about comparing it to artists. There's so many different kind of art forms in the world. There's painting, there's drawing, there's sculpture, there's collage art. I mean, you can even add writing and music and all that into there. There's so many different, even within like drawing, there's different mediums. There's pastels, there's charcoals, there's pencil, there's watercolors, there's oil painting. There are so many different ways to do it. And just because somebody is a really good painter doesn't mean they're going to be a really good sculptor. You know what I mean? And I think that kind of applies to communicating with deities, is that just because like maybe you're really good at receiving signs out in the world, certain animals will come up to you, or you see the words that people say to you, or certain songs coming on the radio, you do that. But that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be able to do thoughts and feelings, or you're going to astral travel, or you're going to certain, even with the same thing with divination methods, you may be really good with a pendulum or automatic writing, but just tarot does not vibe with you at all. So that's important to keep in mind, because when you go online, you're going to see people doing different kinds of communications, and it's not necessarily that, it's not like you have to do it that way. Because I get a lot of people that are like, I can't communicate the way you do with the gods. Am I doing something wrong? It's like, no, you're not doing anything wrong. Because first off, it takes time. That's another thing. I think in a lot of ways, communication is a skill that you have to work at. And it's kind of like, again, going back to the art thing, there are some people who were able to kind of pick up a pencil or pick up a paintbrush and be able to make really good work without any practice or any training, right? But yet they still also had to keep going to hone their skills, right? And it's the same thing with communication. You know, you may, when you first start, end up feeling that clear communication, but you need to kind of keep working at it in order for it to get clearer and it to be more reliable. So it's not necessarily something you're just going to start doing and it's going to be amazing, or how you see people talking about it on the internet, especially because you don't know how long people have been practicing for, right? Like for me, how I communicate with the gods now is not how I used to communicate with them at all. That was something that just I had to, and I'm going to get into a little bit of that, because that kind of falls into the idea of us getting in our own way. And that was my whole thing. And then once I kind of got out of my own way, I was able to experience the gods in a very different way. So there's a lot of that. But also just, I had been practicing for a long time, and I kind of was able to develop that skill over a period of time. It's not a lot of beginners, because they see people on the internet talking and like about having these amazing experiences with the gods and being able to communicate with them, and they think, well, I want that, which is fine to want that. It's very human nature to want to communicate with the divine. I mean, that's one of the reasons humanity loves divination so much, is because it has given us an opportunity to speak to the gods. It's also why the Oracle of Delphi was so popular in her day, because it gave people the chance to say, I spoke to Apollo, you know? And so it's a very human nature, and I don't want anyone to feel shame for wanting that experience, because it's just kind of ingrained in us to want to communicate with higher powers, higher beings, the spiritual realm. But I think we just have to be more mindful of how we go about it, and the thoughts that we have around it, because those tend to really get in our way and make us think that communication is supposed to look a certain way. And if it doesn't look that way, then you're doing it wrong, which is not the case at all. So let's talk a little bit more about, let's get more into, I'm trying to think what I want to go into. Let's like talk about getting in your own way, because I think that's a good segue, and one that I could talk a lot about. So specifically, when you see me talk about my communication with the gods, it's framed like a conversation, like a chat. That's how I frame it. Like, Apollo said this, and then I said this, and then Apollo responded with that, and then Artemis said this, and blah, blah, blah. That is not how it occurs. And I'm like very sure that for most people that lay out conversations like that they had with the gods, where it looks like me, like I'm talking to you, you're hearing me. If you want to, you can type in the chat and respond, right? So it's not like that. And I like I said, I'm pretty sure, because I've seen other people say that too, that it's like the way that they format the post is not actually how they're receiving the communication. They're just kind of interpreting it and making it so that it's going to be understandable for people to read. And that's exactly how it is for me. When I have these conversations with the gods, it's more of like certain feelings and thoughts that I'm receiving, and it's sometimes it's not even in those exact words I'm using, where where a god will say this exact phrase. It's just like this feeling that I have that Apollo is trying to say to me that my appearance is not who I am. You know, that just, I'm getting that feeling, so that I create a conversation around that feeling, if that makes sense. And I think a lot of people do that, especially the ones who receive messages the way that I do, through the thoughts and the feelings, and even in very like jumbled kind of messages. And I think that's just important to put out there, because I do think like your expectations very much influences how you're going to receive the messages and how you're going to interpret them. If you're expecting to kind of pray and then to hear a voice saying, hey, it's Hermes, you wanna go steal something? Like, that's not, I mean, maybe for some people, but I think the vast majority, it's not like that. It's not that kind of very clear, and like, where I think people want, it kind of goes back to a lot of things that has to do with our relationship with the gods and being modern people of the modern era. People want facts. They want things that are indisputable. Like, you can't, there's no hole in it to be able to say, well, that didn't really happen. They don't want to rest on faith. They want to rest on knowing. It's all kind of based around like science, like, oh, you know that, I'm trying to think of something that you can't you can't dispute. We know that the earth is round, although there are people that say that it's not, but we know the earth is round. We know that climate change is a thing. We know, these things that it's like science says this is what's happening. This is the reality of the situation, but it doesn't work like that with the divine. It's not, things are not as clear cut, and it does rely a lot on faith and belief. I actually wrote down, because when I was thinking about, what I wanted to talk about, and I was going through a lot of my thoughts, and one of the things that I realized is that communication with the gods is less about knowing, because people always ask me, how do you know that the gods are talking to you and it's not just your imagination? How do you know? And it's not about knowing, it's about your belief. That's really what it comes down to, because you'll never know. The only way you know is if you believe. If you believe that is a message or a sign from a god. That's really what it's all about. Belief. It's all about faith. And that's hard for people, especially in today's world. And that's understandable, So it's important to realize that you're it's never going to be, if you go in with that expectation that it's going to be like where you can't dispute it, you're going to miss every message that's happening, because you're going to argue with yourself, which people do all the time. And I'm included in that. I have the best story about it, but you're just going to argue with yourself and say, oh, well, that was probably just me. That wasn't the gods, like, why would they want to talk to me? Or you don't trust yourself enough. There's always a reason as to why, like, when you have to rely on you, there's always a reason to argue, right? Always a reason. Well, no, I can't believe myself, or I can't trust my interpretation or my perception of this, right? Hi, everybody that's joining. Oh, receiving messages through music is really an important part of my relationship with the gods. And one of the things I was actually thinking about was how the ways that I communicate with the gods are aspects of myself that have always been there, like thoughts and feelings. I'm Cancerian. I have moved through the world following my feelings. Everything is about how it makes me feel and how I make other people feel, and reading energies. Like, I've always been that way. So it makes complete sense that that's how I would communicate with the gods, right? And music has always been extremely important to me my entire life. It's always been something I've clung to for support, for inspiration. And again, it makes sense then that that would be a way that the gods would choose to communicate with me. So with that said, I was thinking that a good way to figure out what will be your preferred method to communicate with the gods would be to kind of think about like the methods that I've listed for you, and kind of think if there's anything that resonates with you that has kind of always been a part of you, you know, that has meant something to you. Because another thing is animals. The gods like to send certain animals to me to let me know either that they're there or just to kind of like say hello or make me feel better. And animals have always been extremely important to me my entire life. I've always bonded with animals. So yeah. So I maybe think about the ways that kind of that you've moved about the world, or the things that have meant something to you that's been very important to you, and see if like those are ways that you can communicate. Oh, that's so cute, dancing around your room with the gods. I love that. We do gaslight ourselves. Oh yes, we gaslight ourselves hard. Oh yeah, let me tell my story. I love telling this story because it's the perfect like you literally gaslighting myself basically, and just kind of the most obvious story is really close to being like where you can't dispute that this was Artemis, but yet I still disputed it, you know? So, okay, I was driving home. I went out. I don't know where I was going, doesn't matter, but I was driving home. I turned down my street and I see something in the middle of the road right in front of my house. And I'm like, what is that? It looked like an animal, but it was like weird because I was like, I'd never seen anything like that, because I'm used to, you know, squirrels, even rabbits and other things like, you know, but I'm like, what is that? And then as I got closer, I'm like, that's a deer. Now, deer are very, like, they're common on Long Island, but I've lived in my neighborhood basically my entire life. Like, my entire life. And I have never once seen a deer in my neighborhood. Ever. Okay? So that's important to note. And right in front of my house, right when I was turning down my road so that I would see it, and not only was there one, there were three. Three. There was a mother and two babies. What does that sound like? A mother and two babies. Leto, Apollo, and Artemis? Like, how can you get more like a slap in the face? But did I did I say, oh my God, Artemis wants to talk to me? Because at this point I wasn't working with Artemis. I wasn't working with Artemis. So, oh, my mom's coming. Hi, Mom.
Hello.
She's good. It's okay. Lack of logic, which is why I can't hang out. Oh my God. But yeah, so I wasn't working with Artemis, but I completely. Oh my God, my cat's just sissing at my mom. Mom, do not rile her up, please. I just got her to calm down.
There you go.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Mom.
All right, I'll talk to you later.
Hi. Everyone say hi to my mom real quick.
Hi. Hi.
Okay. Bye. Thanks, Mom. Bye.
Bye.
I got my coffee. My coffee. But anyway, yeah, so my mother's still riling up my cat. I still disputed it. I still said that can't be. It was just a freak coincidence. A freak coincidence. And it was a little bit after that I literally had to have Apollo screaming at me saying, my sister wants to work with you. Like, what is she literally sent deer to your house. What is wrong with you? So yeah. Thanks. Yeah, my mom's the best. She brought me coffee. Yeah, so it's crazy. Like, you just, when it seems like it's quite obvious. Like, if anybody else told me that story, I'd be like, oh, that's totally Artemis. But when it's me, all of a sudden, no, it's not Artemis. It's a freak coincidence. And that's the other thing. The word coincidence. That's kind of, you have to develop a certain relationship with that word and maybe take it out of your vocabulary altogether and decide that there's no such thing as coincidences, that it's all messages from the divine. And that also leads me into the whole thing. Put this here. Whole thing on how to differentiate between messages from the divine and just your own imagination or your own thoughts. You don't. You don't. At least this is how I do it. I don't differentiate. Let me explain. People go, what? What do you mean you don't differentiate? I don't differentiate. And this is why I don't. I don't differentiate because why do I need to? Why do I need to? As long as what I'm assigning to the gods, as long as it's not anything hurtful and harmful, and I'm not preaching it to you all as, well, Apollo told me this, so it must be true. As long as I'm not doing any of that, what does it matter if I choose to assign good advice to Apollo? If it helps me follow it, if it helps me take the good advice, why do I need to differentiate whether that was just me actually, not really planning on doing anything this year with the gods and the internet space, but Deity. Actually, it's funny, she's been showing up more. She has, and I think it's because it's April, but she's been showing up more. But yeah, I'm not really doing much. I'm kind of just focusing on the stuff that I have going on right now. I may do in the future, definitely. But of course, I encourage everybody, if you want to celebrate Aphrodite April, please do so, because Aphrodite April is amazing and Aphrodite is amazing. So I'm a big proponent of it because it helps inspire, like, self-love and self-acceptance and peace, internal peace, you know, and she's just wonderful, and she's the best. And okay, this isn't about Aphrodite. Yes, I like that. Is it harmful, hurtful, or hubris? I like that. And I think that's exactly what you kind of have to ask yourself. If it's not any of those things, then why do you need to differentiate between yourself and the gods? You know, especially again, if it's beneficial for you to think that that's what the gods are saying to you. You know, that's just sort of the way I go about it. And ever since I started doing that, I could tell you it's been a lot better. It has been so much, communicating with the gods have just been so much easier and effortless and just sort of just nicer. And I've been doing better because I just take what's being given to me, and I don't have that pause of, wait, is this, because like you're taking up time and energy sitting there trying to differentiate between if this is your thought or a divine message, a divine message, you know? And it's just sort of like, what's the point? Like, why? You kind of have to ask yourself that. Why does it matter? It really doesn't. You know? It really doesn't. I don't know if it's your internet or if it's mine, because mine keeps doing, saying my internet is not playing well. Probably because my brother's home. Oh, turning red. Yes. Okay. We're going to talk about, just a little preview, we're going to talk about turning red in the next live stream. So we're talking about Artemis, and I have a lot of thoughts. So be prepared for that. I'm really excited. Anyway, okay. So, okay, let's talk about, I think a good segue from that is getting in your own way, which I think we were supposed to talk about. And then they just went, That's me. Welcome to Jessie Land. That's how my brain works. So we just go with it. I just have to accept the fact that I am a ridiculous, awkward human being, and it's never going to change. So I just have to roll with it. I think you all accept that about me. Clearly, you're still here and you like the live stream. So clearly, you like my my Jessieisms. So, that's right. That was you, Rose. That was okay. I'm glad that I realized it was you, because I want to give you 100% credit for making that association, because that blew my mind. I was like, oh my god, I didn't think of it like that. And playing the bear is like one of my favorite festivals for Artemis. So I was like, this is amazing. So yes, definitely going to give you 100% credit for that observation. Now I'm getting excited about next live stream. We're still doing this one. So getting in your own way. So the thing, I personally think one of the biggest hurdles with communicating with the gods is ourselves. Because, especially, well, not really just, well, okay, I'm getting tongue-tied. Thoughts and feelings, especially because it's your thoughts and feelings. It's you. You are basically the receptacle. You are the host. You're the one that is receiving these messages. But really, it also applies to all to all messages, because you have to interpret it. So a lot of it all relies on you in one way or another. So you tend to be the biggest barrier between receiving these messages and the way that you interpret them. So I'm going to give you another story. this one has to do with Aphrodite. I was in a really bad place, like depressed, beating myself up, negative thoughts, just awful. And I decided I was going to, because I really wanted to speak to the gods to see if they could make me feel better. So I started pulling tarot cards. And I received, I'm trying to remember which one it is. I'm still like, if it makes you guys feel any better, I've been reading tarot and I still have to go by the book that makes you guys feel better, because I do. No shame. I still go by the book. It's one of the swords that has to do with like deception and betrayal and things like that. And I received that card. And because I was in such a negative space and hating on myself so much, my interpretation of that card was Aphrodite telling me that I was deceitful, that I was betraying everybody, that I was an imposter, that I was, I was wrong. Basically just all these negative things. I'm like, oh my God, Aphrodite is realizing that I'm not a great worshiper and I'm a terrible person. And, she's telling me that she doesn't want me to worship her, be her devotee anymore. She hates me. And that's literally I was spiraling. Like, it just made it worse. And then thankfully I was able to kind of receive, like, I felt this wave of like something telling me, put the cards down, put the cards down, put the cards down, go do something else, go do some self-soothing things. You are not in the place for this. Put the cards down. And thankfully I listened and I put the cards down and I walked away and I did other things to make myself feel better. Then I revisited that card in a different headspace. And I looked at that card very differently. I saw a very different message in there that was more of a kind of more of like a warning of not like, oh, you're a terrible person. But more of like a, hey, you need to kind of like, you need to be a little bit more careful with what you talk about or who you share things with, or, you just need to be a little more protective kind of thing. I saw basically, but the whole thing was, I was able to see different sides, because that's, especially with tarot, it's important to remember that there's an abundance of interpretations for cards, because while yes, they have very specific meanings, how you apply those meanings to any given situation is going to vary. That's why we can have the amount of tarot readers we have, and they're able to support themselves because it's like you have different interpretations and people can read the cards differently. And so the point of that story is to remember that how, like, what you're thinking and the state that you are in is going to affect how you interpret a sign from the gods. And that's why it is very important. It is so important for you to kind of have a foundation set up of what you believe the gods to be and how they operate. So, for example, I believe that the gods are not going to do harm to me. I don't think they are cruel in the way that a lot of people say that they are, where they're just going to needlessly be jerks. Like, they don't want to inspire fear in their worshipers, basically. They want to inspire love and compassion and kindness, and they want to inspire us to grow and to be better versions of ourselves so that we can help the world be a better version of itself. That's my belief about the gods. So having that belief allows me then to know that when certain thoughts come up and I'm thinking like and they're negative, I know that's me and that's not the gods. I also know the way I work. This is also why it is important. There's many reasons why it's important to work on our mental health and everything and heal our trauma. There's the abundance of reasons, but specifically talking about our spirituality, it's important because once you start learning how your trauma and your mental illness affects you, you're able to understand, no, that's just me. That's my trauma speaking. That's my depression speaking. That's my anxiety speaking. That's my perfectionism speaking. You know, that's not the God speaking because they wouldn't say that to me. I know they wouldn't say that to me because that's not what I believe about them. But I know my trauma. I know that I have a tendency to be the ultimate bully to myself. So it's very likely that's me and not the gods. Exactly, Rose. Yes, that card can be about deceiving yourself. 100% correct. Yeah, it's really a common thing. From the amount of time that I've been doing this and had this platform and have been, talking with people and helping people with their relationship with the gods, I see that all the time, where people are like, are the gods mad at me? Are they upset with me? Something will happen and they immediately go, my God is mad at me. And that's why I have to say, like, you need to, again, it kind of goes back to faith and belief. Again, it goes back to faith and belief. You have to have that belief that the gods are not going to do that to you. It's you sort of shape your own reality in that, because if you it's basically confirmation bias. If you believe that the gods are going to punish you for things, then you're going to read that in anything that happens. Yes, exactly. Oh, thank you. It's really important, I think, to figure out what your foundation is. That's what I always call it, is the foundation, because it's essentially what it is. It's you have a foundation and then you build everything on top of that. And then you need a secure foundation or else everything's going to topple over. If you don't know whether you believe the gods are cruel or vengeful or kind or understanding, if you don't have any of those beliefs set in place, then yeah, of course you're going to immediately think, especially too when you add your own thoughts and perceptions of the world and yourself to it, because a lot of people unfortunately have the similar trauma of feeling like we can't take up space, feeling like we are always wrong. We've been, gaslighted a lot in our lives. We haven't gotten the praise that we deserve, where, people will point out our mistakes and beat us up for it, as opposed to, and like, don't celebrate our wins or victories. A lot of us have these traumas, because I've seen it, because I've noticed it within me, and then I can see it in other people when they talk to me about the gods and their worries about, how how the gods are going to interact with them and how they think the gods are mad at them or that they're afraid of the gods and things like that. And a lot of that is because we were conditioned to believe certain things about ourselves. You know, that again, that we can't take up space, or that we're always going to fuck up, that we're fuck ups, and that's just all we're going to do is fuck up, and then people are going to get mad at us for fucking up, and we're going to get punished for it. And that's not how, at least in my experience, that's not how the gods work at all. The gods are essentially, you know, the adults I wish I had growing up, because they are a lot more understanding, a lot more kind, and a lot more, what's the word? A lot more dedicated to my growth and my overall well-being, in my opinion. Being called out today. I have felt out. So funny you talk about Dionysus. Dionysus has been around. I've been around him before. He's been in and out of my life for basically almost most of the time that I've been a Hellenic polytheist, but he's especially been kind of like, you know, I call him, I've been saying he's been like Beetlejuice. You know how like Beetlejuice was just kind of like there but not, like he was in the little miniature town, you know, and Judo, the case where it was like he's been sneaking around your little that's been Dionysus. He's been kind of like popping in and out and just kind of hanging around, because I've been going to communicating. I can talk about this. I started reading this book, actually. I have it with me. Make more noise, Moo. Make more noise. This book, Cultish, really good book. I'm going to be slowly making a reading list, because that's something that people ask me for all the time. And this year I've been really dedicated to reading a lot, which, by the way, if you want to follow along to what I'm reading, I have a Goodreads. I also have a story graph. You can find me under, I think, Jessie Tea with the Gods. But if you want a link, let me know. Message me. I'll give you a link. So I've been reading a lot of different stuff, but a lot of witchy books and books about the gods and ancient Greece and everything. So I want to start creating an actual reading list that I'll start adding to it. And I'm going to add this one because I think it's super important for people to see how, you know, how cults operate, not just the way we think about cults. Like we think like the Manson family or Jonestown or things like that. But it's called Cultish because it's like things that aren't really cults, but they kind of are. And they talk about a lot of like fitness stuff, like Soul Cycle, and even talk about like stan culture and everything in here. And it talks a lot about how language and how cult leaders and everything use language. And it's just a real fascinating read. And I think for everybody, for all witches and pagans, I think this is really important because the fact that most of our spaces are online and our communities are growing, I think it's really important to just kind of be aware of the red flags and to understand how language can influence us and just the things to look out for. So yeah, I really am loving this book, but I've been reading it, and because of it, I've been really into getting back into my interest in cults, which Dionysus is associated with that because he's essentially, can be seen as like he's a cult leader. Love him. And it started with that, and then it just sort of like I could start to feel him just being like, hey, let's hang out. And I saw, as a lot of you know, I'm a big Lana Del Rey fan, and she has a lot of unreleased material. that gets randomly leaked and everything. And the new one that just got released was Cult Leader. And I was like, hi, Dionysus. Cult Leader. And then I started getting a lot of Ariadne and Dionysus feels. That's another way, at least in my opinion, how you can tell if a god is around is when you just randomly start thinking about them, or like feeling their energy, or you're just like, I want to, or even the things that they're associated with. You know, like if you really, I'm trying to think like what, like Hermes is associated with money. If you all of a sudden are like, I want to get my finances in order, you're like, I am really determined to just get my finances in order. That could be because Hermes is around influencing that. His energy is influencing that on you, you know? Or with Aphrodite, you're like, I just really want to work on my makeup, or I want to change my style up, you know, and you never know when you just get those random bursts of like ideas or like desires or just goals. You're like, I really want to do this. Sometimes it could be because a certain god is around you. So I've been just having these just bursts of just like Ariadne and Dionysus feels. And it was funny because I've been in a really big Lana Del Rey mood. I kind of had stopped listening to her for a while, and then now I'm back on my bullshit, obsessing over it. And I'm listening. One of the songs, like, I love this song. This was actually the very first song I ever listened to from Lana Del Rey that I was like, this, because I actually was never a fan of hers, and I actually thought her music was really boring. I was like, this is so slow and so boring, and I like couldn't get into it. But then I listened, somebody had put Gods and Monsters on an Aphrodite playlist, and I was like, okay, I'll try it out. And I listened to it and I fell in love. And that was like, for the longest time, the only Lana Del Rey song I listened to. And so I've listened to that song over and over and over again for a long time. And it randomly came up because I actually wasn't even listening to Lana Del Rey. I was listening to something else, and my Spotify just decided to keep playing random songs. And that song came up, and I was like, oh, I love this song. And I'm listening to it, and I'm like, this is an Ariadne song. Like, I listened to the song for years and never made that association. But all of a sudden, I was like, this is an Ariadne song. And then as I was listening to more of Lana Del Rey songs, I was like, this is Ariadne and Dionysus again. I'm like, oh my God, you can make an entire musical about these two and just use Lana Del Rey songs. So yeah, I have experiences with Dionysus currently, and those are the ways that he's communicating with me right now. And he is wonderful. I really, really enjoy his energy can be a lot though, but I enjoy having him around. It's really all kind of I could say about it, because I don't know, I don't have the words fully to describe his energy other than I just really enjoy having him around. Oh yes, Chords, I know how much you love Ariadne. Yes, 100%. Apollo and Hermes absolutely are influencing you. If you've been feeling like selling your paintings, I have always said Apollo and Hermes, that is the business duo. Even if you don't do art, but especially if you're a creative in any kind of way, 100%, but even just any kind of business, Apollo and Hermes, that's who you want to talk to. Because Hermes is all about business and money and the savviness about it and the charisma that you have, you know, the networking, you know, being able to negotiate. Yeah, you know, he's that suave guy that'll literally talk the pants right off of you. That's Hermes. But then Apollo is the more like the responsible, reliable organization, structure, schedule, like keeping everything. He's the planner, you know, he's the one that like He's got the Excel sheet, the Excel chart going. That's Apollo. So they're like perfect together, 100%. A lot, yeah. Yeah, exactly. That inner critic is so bad. It does that all the time where it says, well, why would this God want to talk to you? And it's like, because I'm awesome. Like, who wouldn't want to talk to me? Oh, I didn't know that there is a musical called Frogs that's about Dionysus. I want to see that. And he sings a song about Ariadne. Oh. But yeah, so you definitely have to find ways to kind of get over that inner critic, because that is going to be your biggest hurdle with communicating with deities. And it's been mine. Like I said, I shared before that, I have a lot of trauma in my childhood and everything that has caused me to be a bully basically to myself. Like I essentially became my abuser now. Like I'm the one that's abusing myself because I'm just echoing all the things that I've heard my entire life about, not being good enough, or like why would anyone wanna, like Perfect can do a whole full circle moment. I started this live stream saying that it makes me really happy that people look forward to the live streams, that they really enjoy it, because most of the time that bully in my head tells me, you're so awkward on camera. Like, who wants to listen to you? Oh my God, you're not pretty enough to be on camera. Nobody wants to listen to what you have to say. No one wants to look at you. Nobody wants to, your voice is annoying. You say like too much. You do, you're not perfect. It's always, you're not like other people on YouTube. You don't have it all together like they do. It's a very, my cat is meowing at me. She's like, no, Mom, you're great. But like, that's what goes on in my head, for everything. So essentially, yeah, it's the same thing has happened with the gods, and it does still happen. It's not as bad, thankfully, but like just recently I've been dealing a lot with the fact that I'm aging. I'm going to be 34 in June, and I'm seeing, visible signs of aging on my face. I have gray hairs, like it's natural. This is what happens, but it was hard for me to deal with it. And I was beating myself up about it and really kind of thinking, oh my God, the gods are not going to love me anymore because I'm not going to be beautiful. I'm not going to be young and pretty. And especially because, one of my main deities is Apollo. And the thing that we all know about Apollo is he's beautiful. He's young and he's beautiful. And essentially we believe that he loves young and beautiful people. So I'm like, oh, he's not gonna love me anymore because I'm not gonna be young, and the great Lana Del Rey song, Young and Beautiful. And I was like I was getting really, really upset about it. And this also goes back into the whole thing of like, if it benefits you, why sit there trying to differentiate if that's just your thoughts or a God's message? But I felt Apollo in those moments say to me, I love your mind, I love your heart, and I love your soul. Basically telling me, your appearance is not who you are, and it's not the part of you that I love. Like it's your mind that is always working and always thinking and always trying to figure things out, and is always philosophizing, and you want to learn. It just wants to gather more knowledge. I love your heart because it's so big, and it's so, you want to love other people and you want to be loved and you hold so much compassion for the world and for others, and your soul that is all the things that make you who you are, all the quirks and all the traits and the qualities. And, you know, I could have sat there and thought, well, is that just me wanting to believe that? So I'm just going to, you know, so I'm thinking that's Apollo. But does it matter? Because at the end of the day, like, I'm going to age. I'm not going to look like this forever. I'm going to age. So I have to find a way to find comfort in it and deal with it. And if my way is to believe that the gods are going to love me regardless, because the part of me that they love isn't the way that I look, it's the internal parts, then why? Who is that harming? You know, who is that harming? It's not harming anybody. And also, though, found out, though, Apollo loves old ladies because the Pythia was 50 plus. So, by the way, I've decided, this is a side note, I've decided that for my 50th birthday, I'm throwing a Pythia party. That's going to be like, hey, I can officially be the Pythia now. It's going to be an Oracle Delphi party. I've decided that's what I'm doing for my 50th. It's going to be fun. Everyone's invited. But yeah, so if I was to sit there and try to differentiate, it would just make me more, first it would make me more depressed. I was already depressed, you know, and like, why? But it's also like showing that inner critic that is saying, you know, because of certain things, because of certain values we have in our culture, which our culture values, especially in people who are assigned female at birth, you know, like we are expected to be young and beautiful. You know, that's our value, is being young and beautiful. And the more that we age, we become less valuable, which is leads me, well, we're not going to talk about it now. It's going to be a future, definitely future live stream. This is one of my issues with how Demeter is handled in our society, because, you know, she's not the young and beautiful Persephone who's in love with everyone's favorite emo boy, Hades. You know, so it's ageism. You know, we have a big ageist problem in our society and in our culture. So because of that, those thoughts filter into my brain of, well, I'm aging now, so now I'm not as valuable, so thus the gods won't see me as valuable, which is not the truth, because that's our own society's bullshit that doesn't have to translate to the gods. You know what I mean? Oh, Dionysus would crash a Pythia party. He'd be like, hello. I've been I take over Delphi for half of the year, so hell yeah. I know. That's exactly how I feel as someone who's 33 and going to be turning 34. Is I'm like, when am I supposed to feel like a grown up? Because I don't feel like a grown up at all. Not in the slightest. Hello, Curtis. How are you? Yes, exactly. Apollo loves old ladies. Yeah, having everyone sing Young and Beautiful now. I actually have that. Young and Beautiful is on my Apollo playlist because I do associate that song with him. Because I love that in the song she says, you know, she says, will you still love me when I'm no longer young and beautiful? And she says, I know you will. And so that's kind of how I feel like with my relationship with Apollo. It's like me saying that, but I also know he will, you know, that he'll always love me. Oh, you're sitting at, aw, I hope work's going okay. I know. See, we're gonna end up having to have a live stream about Demeter. She deserves it. She deserves a spotlight on her. We'll have to do that. Because Demeter is chords just breaking out into song. Yeah, because Demeter really, and it's funny because a lot of people sometimes get a little bit upset with me when I bring up the ageism in regards to the way that Demeter is treated, because I think a lot of people don't want to think about it. They don't want to think that maybe they're participating, because I can admit that I was participating in ageism when it came to Demeter and the way that I saw the Hades and Persephone, well, I'm calling it the Hades and Persephone myth, the hymn to Demeter, you know, but that's the thing. It's like when you're raised in a society that conditions you to have these certain values or to believe these certain things, like it's not shocking when you believe, you know, though you find remnants of those things in you. And that's the point. How you deconstruct all that is you first have to acknowledge it. You know, you have to acknowledge, oh yeah, I maybe have been participating in this, or my beliefs around this probably have come from the ageist, you know, conditioning that society has given me. So you just kind of have to acknowledge it first. Oh, that's so cute. Oh, I believe that he probably was around your grandma. Apollo really does like old ladies. Honestly, I'm the same way. Whenever I do spotlights on deities, I'm like, I want to worship this deity now. Apollo's like, there's too many. You can't keep up. I'm like, but Apollo, I love them. I know. It happens to me too. If it makes you feel any better, I do that to myself, because I have to sit there and research and really, and you know, put everything together. And then I'm like, oh my God, I love them so much. Like when I did Aries and Hephaestus's episodes of Tea with the Gods, I was like, I love them. I love them so much. Can I keep them, please? They do dump their mother issues on Demeter. You're right. And the thing is I think there's nothing wrong with using mythology to kind of sort out your own trauma. I don't think, and maybe even to like rework it to kind of fit your experiences. I don't think there's a problem with that. I think the problem comes when you forget, when you think that that's the reality and forget that the original story was not like that. You know what I mean? Because I think that's been the problem, is a lot of people think that the story was told from Persephone's point of view, and that it was about Persephone, and that it was about, you know, her falling in love with Hades, which is not the case. You know, it was about Demeter and Demeter searching for her daughter, and, you know, her whole journey through that. And, you know, it's people just kind of Disneyfied it and turned it, you know, they basically did what Disney does all the time to fairy tales. You know, Disney makes it family friendly and about love. And I say that as, you know, a Disney, well, it's over here calling myself a Disney fan, because I'm not a fan of the company, but they own my childhood. So I'm a fan of some of the works that Disney comes out with. But yeah, they basically have, you know, Disneyfied the story, and but people think that this can show you how much this whole thing, his whole business with Demeter and Hades and Persephone bothers me is I was ranting about it at work. That's when you know something bothers me, when I'm like, I don't just keep it in the Hellenic polytheist spaces. I bring it into my real life. And I was ranting to my coworkers about it because a lot of my coworkers are actually really big Greek mythology fans. So I'm able to talk about it with them. And I was ranting about all these retellings of, of the story. And I said, that's not even the original story. This is how it was. And I told them like the hymn to Demeter people, and they were like, what? I didn't know that. And I'm like, and this is the problem. This is the problem, that people don't know the original story. I love how this is turned. I'm okay with this turning into like a Demeter spotlight. We're supposed to talk about simply communicating, but I'm fine with that. She deserves it. Hi. Yeah, she is. I love that. She's all about giving people a safe space and food and warmth. You're right. I do think they have like do you mean like they have different aspects to them kind of thing? Like there's different, like Apollo can be one way with one worshiper and then another way with another worshiper. Is that what you mean by that? If so, yes, I do believe that. Aw. I actually was thinking, it's funny, I was talking to Nathan about this, and me and Nathan have to like record our conversations because they're great. But can I help you? We were talking about this whole thing with Demeter and everything, and I don't know how we got on the conversation, but I realized, I was like, you know what? Because I have winter depression. And so I'm like, I have winter depression. Demeter probably has winter depression. That's what I should just do for the winter. I should tell all the other gods to get out, and me and Demeter just hang out and be depressed together in the winter. I'm like, how do you do that next winter? Like everybody else leaves, it's just me and Demeter being sad. Because I struggle a lot in the winter. I just do not like the winter. And clearly, neither does Demeter. Can you lay down? Thank you. Yes. I love Demeter. I mean, it's just interesting too, because, the way Demeter is the reason we eat. It's like, I think it's a fun thing though to kind of look. You can kind of tell a lot about our society based on the gods that are the most popular. It kind of says a lot about us and what we value and what we find significant through which gods get uplifted more. Because I think it does say a lot about how we look at food compared to our ancient ancestors. The fact that Demeter is very low on the list. And I think it also maybe says something about ableism and beauty standards, that Hephaestus is so low on the list, even though like Hephaestus is essentially, I would argue, the patron god of the modern era. Like the modern era has been completely revolutionized because of technology, and that's Hephaestus. So, but he's low on the list because he's not seen as pretty like Apollo. So, hi. Yeah. Right? Well, Mu loves Artemis. He does. Hephaestus does need more love and appreciation because, yeah, we're doing this right now. What we're doing right now, that's because of Hephaestus. That's because of Hephaestus. Us having, you all being wherever you are in the world, me being in New York, and we're able to do this. That's Hephaestus. And Hephaestus is the reason that we were able to get through lockdown. Could you imagine? Like, I kept saying that when we were in lockdown. Like, could you have imagined any other time in the world, like in, any other time period, having to be locked away, without all of this technology to keep us connected? And it was still hard on people. That's not to negate the fact that it was still difficult, but it would have been even more so if we couldn't stay in contact like this, where we could video chat and go on Zoom and Skype and FaceTime and talk on the phone and text and email and all of that. And that's because of Hephaestus. Hephaestus did that. So he definitely deserves a lot more love and appreciation and respect, because our whole world is created by him, essentially. I know, I agree. I 1,000% agree. I know people just think he's not attractive, and I'm like, are you kidding me? I just imagine him with long curly dark hair and the beard and everything, and he's just thick, he's just a big guy that's just okay. Let's not get all turned on the live stream about Hephaestus, but yeah, but I mean, but the thing too is, it's just why does someone have to be, why does a god especially have to be attractive to be considered important or to be loved and appreciated? You know what I mean? Why it doesn't have to be that way? Why can't we? But I mean, we know why, because it goes back to what I was saying before about the way our beauty standards, and what I was talking about my issues with aging, and also my issues with being on camera, is the idea that, we give more energy and attention to attractive people because our society has conditioned us that way, to view people who are attractive in a better light than people who are, not as attractive or not conventionally attractive. That's my whole thing. That's one of the reasons I did a podcast instead of videos, because I was really self-conscious, and I was like, no one's going to want to listen to what I say. Because I was like, also, I don't want to sit there and every time I film a video have to get all done up and do my makeup and do this, do that. It's just, I don't have the energy for it. I just don't. And it's enough for me to do what I did today. It's a lot of energy, and some people really love doing it, and it's a very it's like a meditative process for them, or it's like a ritual for them, and that's cool. But for me, it's not. And I was like, no one's going to want to listen to what I have to say if I don't look a certain way. And it's sad that it's like that, but that's how our society is. So that's why one of the reasons I chose to do a podcast was because it's just so much easier. You don't see me, you're just hearing me. And I don't have to worry about what I look like. I could literally have my hair up in a messy bun and wear my glasses and no makeup on, and you're still good. Well, I mean, not you, because I know you guys aren't like that, but you know, people as a whole, you know, a lot of people are less likely to listen to what I have to say if they don't think I'm attractive. It's sad, but aw, thank you. Yes, that is his second wife. She's one of the Graces, I think. Yeah, like it's kind of, it's just, it's a little it sucks, but yeah. And it's, I mean, the same thing is also with Demeter too, because it's like, you know, because we associate attractiveness with youth. So so it doesn't even matter how you depict Demeter. The point is that she's a mom, because that's the other thing. It's like when people become mothers, their value goes down, and you just, people, like, our society has a hard time with valuing them anymore and like listening to what they have to say, because the whole sense your identity just becomes being a mother, you know, and that's what it's all about. You don't have an identity outside of that. So it's a lot of, and I think a lot of this, to circle back to communicating with deities, because that was what we're supposed to talk about, but circling back, it further cements my point about how we bring things into how we communicate with the gods and the way that we interpret the messages they give us. Because, see, the way that we interact with the gods is very influenced by the conditioning of society. Like, the gods that we uplift fit what society has told us is valuable in humanity, so we are projecting that also onto the gods, you know, to say the ones that are seen as that we're uplifting the most are the young, beautiful ones. You know, it's Apollo, Artemis, Hermes, Dionysus, Aphrodite, Ares, Athena. You know, they tend to be the one, and it's funny, and it's funny because Hades is a very special piece in that Hades should ultimately not be in that mix at all, but he is, but he only is because he got a whole makeover. So what is funny to me about that is that society is showing us that we can like change everything about a god, kind of, you know, the way that we perceive a god and their mythology. We can change that because we did it with Hades. So people are actively choosing not to do that for any of the other gods, which I think is adding an even more of an element of ageism and sexism, and even sexism, you know, because it's like you'll do it for Hades, but you won't do it for Demeter, you know? So it's a very, I think the whole, while it as a Hellenic polytheist, it fucking annoys me. Like it enrages me. I have to like pull myself back with the whole Demeter, Persephone, and Hades situation. But as somebody who, as a like Apollo devotee, like who loves to look at, like who loves sociology and psychology and looking at human nature and just the way humans behave and everything, and how certain things like mythology and the gods and literature can kind of reflect back who we are and what we value. It's fucking fascinating because you can see it all with just these three gods and their whole story together, and how we have retold that story and reinterpret that story, and how we perceive all three of them and their dynamics with each other. Like, you can see our society and our values playing right back. So that stuff fascinates me. So it's like I go back and forth between being really pissed off and really fascinated. Hello. Oh my God, even though Hera is like the coolest, I love Hera. Oh my God, I don't know what the world would be like. I don't think I'd want to know, because there's a lot of Hellenic polytheists who, like, yeah, it's, we don't, Hellenic polytheists, like, is a very broad term, and we don't agree. Honestly, it would probably be very similar to ancient Greece. I'm going to be honest with you, because reading about ancient Greece and the way that they interacted with each other, I'm like, that's just how the Hellenic polytheists of today are. Like, the way Athens and Sparta didn't agree on anything and fought all the time, like, that's what we do all the time, you know, because everyone's always arguing about, you know, you can't say that to the gods, you can't do that with the gods, or the gods aren't your friends, you know, that's disrespectful, or that's not Apollo, that's not Aphrodite, that's not, you know, it's a lot of arguing over, you know, how other people interact with the gods, communicate with the gods, and their experiences with the gods. And we've been doing that since ancient times, so it's probably what it would be like. It's extremely exhausting. They do all have their dud. It's very true. So let's get back to communicating with deities. I think I pretty much went over most of everything. I think the other thing to just keep in mind is again going back to the internet, and that how other people go about communicating with the, like, you can't put too much stock in what other people are doing. There's a plethora of reasons why you can't, between, like, you don't know how long they've been practicing at that, you don't know if the way they're telling it is exactly how it happened, you know, if they're just formatting it to be more understandable in a post, to fit better in a post. You don't know if that's going to be your preferred way to, I got a cat butt in my face. You don't know if that's going to be your preferred way of doing it, if that way is even going to work for you. And I mean, there's also, I'm just going to say it, you also don't know if they're lying. That is a big thing. And I'm not saying people, like, I'm not saying that every person is doing that, but it's more that, like, you don't know what people are putting out on the internet. You don't know how true it is. I love you, but you're gonna knock it over. Oh, she's so mad at me. But Moo, thank you. You can do whatever you want, but please do not rub up against my laptop, because you're gonna knock it over. She's so cool. And then she goes right back to doing it. I love you, but you're making this very difficult. I'm gonna have to start locking you out. Okay. Oh my God, she's so sassy. She's so squishy right now. Moo, don't embarrass me in front of my friends. That was the cat. She's, I don't know, she's very scutchy. But yes, take it with a grain of salt. That's very true. Like, you don't know. So you can't put so much stock in what other people are doing, because you just don't know the backstory, you just don't know. So it's more important, if anything, you can look at what other people are doing to get an idea of what is possible, maybe to even validate experiences you have, to be like, oh, I did something like that happen to me. Oh my God, maybe it really was the gods. But you don't, to sit there and be like, well, it's not happening like that for me, then I must be doing something wrong. Like, don't do that. Yes, don't put your worth and progress against those online, even with worship. 100%. Fantastic way to put it. You just can't compare, because we're all on our own paths. We're all on our own paths. We're all individuals. We all have our own personal, unique relationships with the gods. So it's not going to look the same. And honestly, it's good that it doesn't look the same. I think that's a beautiful thing, that it's very diverse and we can have our own personal relationships that are unique to us. And yeah, so with like communicating, I think the best thing to do is, I always think divination is, in my opinion, the place that is accessible to all of us, because there are so many different ways to do divination. There's so many different methods. You're bound to find at least one that you like. So I always recommend people start there, because, and they're a little bit more reliable, in my opinion. And for those that get very like, oh, I need it to be, I want it to be more, what's the word I'm looking for? Indisputable. Like, because you're pulling a card, so you get that card. It's this tangible, physical thing that's saying this is the message. I think a lot of people like that, when it's like something tangible and like in the material world, as opposed to more like thoughts and feelings are a little bit more like, they're a little bit harder to navigate for some people. So divination is one that I definitely recommend. I think it's always good to have on hand, because especially like when you want to initiate a conversation, like that's my go-to method when I want to initiate a conversation with the gods. I use divination. The other ways, it's them initiating conversation with me. Like thoughts and feelings is them being like, I have to tell you something. Or when I see like one way that Aphrodite talks to me is she sends me rabbits. And that's usually just her being like, hey girl, love you. It's her being cute and just being like, thinking of you kind of thing. So she'll send me rabbits. So, those things, and music too, like those things tend to be them talking to me, where I kind of see divination as I want to talk to you. So I think it's important to have at least one at your disposal, but it's not necessary. It's not, because some people don't like divination, and that's completely valid. But if you're just curious on where to start, definitely look in tarot. Obviously, is the most popular, but it is by all means not the only one. There's oracle cards, there's runes, there's the Greek alphabet oracle, which is great. I use that with Apollo. It's very good. Pendulum readings, automatic writing, bone throwing, tea leaf readings, bibliomancy, shufflemancy. There are so many. There's even like different cultures have their own too. So you can look at different ways that the ancient Greeks did it if you want, or if there are other cultures you're part of, you can look at the way that they do it. Like I've been looking more into Irish paganism, and they have I think it's called the Om, and I'm thinking about trying that out specifically to talk to Irish deities. So definitely look in other like cultures that you are a part of, and see what ones are available to you there. And just do some like there's scrying too. There's so many, and I say just kind of like look through and see what calls to you, what interests you, and just try it out. And take some time, maybe give it like a month and just try it with your deities and see how that works. And then other than that, I would say just try to stay open to things that happen to you and try to go about it without the word coincidence in your vocabulary. Kind of maybe do a little experiment, maybe for like a week or whatever, and be like, what if I was somebody who didn't believe in coincidences and I just accepted certain things were the gods? Like maybe do that experiment and see how it works out for you. See if you just go through life not trying to differentiate or not gaslight yourself or just say everything's a coincidence. I think that's because like I said, once I did that, that's when a lot of things began to improve, specifically my communication with the gods. It really improved when I just kind of stopped caring so much about, oh my God, is this really the gods? Because again, as long as someone said before, I love that, the 3 H's, is it hurtful, harmful, or hubris? As long as you are not hurting yourself, harming yourself or others, and you are not preaching these words as gospel, as like to other people, like, well, Aphrodite told me this, so clearly this is law now. No. Like when I share my communication with, it's especially Apollo, I share a lot of my interactions with Apollo because Apollo gives me really good advice. And I share that not because I'm saying like, oh, this is what Apollo said, so you all should listen to it. It's more of like, to me, it's like when somebody gives you really good advice and it's really good advice, so you just kind of pass it on to other people. That's just how I share it as, kind of like, oh, this was really good advice. And I know other people would find comfort in that. So that's why I share it. I don't share it as like a, well, this comes from Apollo, so you all have to listen. No. I don't, you guys know I'm not like that. I don't do that, but I do think it is important though to be a little wary of what we share on the internet, especially in terms of the messages we receive from the gods, because sometimes the way we share them can be interpreted as kind of preaching. I think there are some well-meaning people who think that they're helping, but the way things get worded, it kind of ends up coming off like you're like pushing this narrative for everybody when it was just meant for you. Because that's the thing to remember. Like that's always what I like to, like the disclaimer I put, like, this Apollo said this to me. It was meant just for me, but because I thought it was really good advice, I am sharing it for anyone who may need it, kind of thing, because my communication with my gods is always for me. It's not ever, well, you need to tell all your followers this, because that's just not how, because I'm like, my followers have their own relationships with the gods. So if they needed you to know something, they would tell you. They don't need me to put words in their mouth, right? That's kind of how I see it as, they don't, like, a lot of you work with Apollo. I don't need to speak for Apollo because Apollo can speak to you. This is more of like us kind of, I see this space as like more us sharing our experiences and our own thoughts and things, and not sitting there trying to speak for the gods, So I do think, and I definitely, and going back to the whole like the cultish thing, definitely be wary of anybody that is, you know, acting like they're receiving these messages from the gods and then they're preaching them as if like you need to listen to them, because that is cultish behavior completely, because that is what cult leaders have always done, where they were like, I'm getting this message from, you know, whatever being they believe in, I am the chosen one, you know. And it's like that's where you get into very bad territory. So anyone who does that, you just block and run. Block and run. Like, don't, anyone who does that. Yes, exactly. Never trust anyone who has the one truth, because there is no one truth. You know, there is so many truths out there, especially when we talk about the divine and the spiritual realm. And one of my favorite, I love Socrates, because Socrates, when I think about him and the things that he said, he keeps me humble. I always go back to him when I feel like I may be like getting a little ahead of myself and venturing into being a little bit too preachy and too like, well, my way is the right way. You know, all these other people don't know what they're talking about, because you know, I think we all can be like that sometimes. And I always go back to Socrates to humble myself and bring myself back down. And because one of his things that he said that I always just repeat, it's like my mantra is like, the only thing that I know is that I know nothing. And I always go back to that, because to me, that is everything about the divine, everything about the spiritual realm. We don't know. We don't know. You know, we have theories, we have ideas, we have thoughts, and we have our own personal experiences, but knowing, no. And anybody who is sitting there trying to say, well, I know, that's someone you have to be wary of, because nobody knows. Nobody knows. Nobody knows what happens to us after we die. Nobody knows. The only people who know are the people that die. You know, like the people who are there in the afterlife. Unless you believe in reincarnation, then, you know, likely our minds, we get wiped of that. And you know, we get like little bits of our past lives, but like, we don't know for sure. We don't know what the realm of the divine looks like and how the divine works. You know, we don't know what they really look like. We don't even, and this, I always like to throw this out there, because we don't even know if it really exists. We don't. We just are believing it does. It's, again, it goes back to belief. It's not knowing, it's believing. You know, and it's your belief in something that makes it real. But the point of that is to understand the difference between knowing and belief, because when it's about knowing, then it becomes, you're heading into a territory of like, well, you can't argue with me because this is the truth. And I have the one way because I know. When beliefs are not factual. Beliefs are just beliefs. And we can have differing beliefs on things and it be okay, you know? But the problem is especially with, and it's not just religion, because even within like the witchcraft community, this is a problem. And in the paganism community, it's a problem where people need to be right. People need to be the one with the one way. It's being like, no, this is the way to do it. And instead of just agreeing to disagree, like, okay, that's the way you do it, this is the way that I do it, nobody's getting hurt, nobody's getting harmed, where it's all good. But it's like they don't let it go, because it's like, no, they need to be their beliefs, in order to be real in their minds, has to be the only prevailing belief. And that's I think that's been a problem. I mean, that's humanity's problem throughout the whole the whole time we've been here, pretty much. Is that's why there's so many fights and religious wars and everything. I mean, there's a lot of other reasons that go into that, but people just need their way to be the right way and the correct way and the only way, instead of the understanding that there is no one way. It's about whatever you're choosing to believe in, because it comforts you. Because to me, that's all this is about. It's about comfort. It's about what helps you go through this wild ride that is life and come to terms with a lot of really difficult things, like death. That's a big one that religion is supposed to help comfort you on, is what happens after you die. And other things too, like how you deal, and even in life, like how you deal with tragedy, how you deal with hurt, how you deal with betrayal, and also how you deal with the good and how you show gratitude. Like a lot of religion and belief systems is about how you navigate being human, I think, and where we see our place in the world, where we find meaning. Because that's what I read in the cultish book. They specifically talked about, like, the two big things is people are looking for meaning and they're looking for community. And that's why religion is so popular. It's because as humans, we want meaning and we want community, and religion offers both. So, that's what it's about. It's not really about being right, but the problem is people aren't okay with just relying on faith and belief. They need to be right, and how they feel right, because you're never going to have that definitive proof that you're right. So how you prove that you're right is you convert other people. You debate other people and you win those debates, and then those people realize they're wrong, and then they convert over to your side. And yeah. So I feel like I just went on a whole tangent on that, but that's just kind of my thoughts around religion, and how I kind of navigate certain things is just accepting this idea that there are so many different beliefs out there, and that our beliefs are mainly just designed to comfort us and help us find meaning in this world. And I think, to circle this all back to communicating with deities, like, I think it is attached to that, because it's about not knowing, but just believing, because life is difficult. Being human is difficult. And so why make it more difficult for yourself by sitting there and battling something you want so badly? Like, you want to feel that connection to the divine. So why are you battling it when you're receiving it? And why are you so hung up on wanting it to be a certain way, like wanting it to be this clear cut? Because at the end of the day too, it's like that's an expectation of that. What is clear cut, you can't dispute it. You know what I mean? Like, how do we define that? Or you're defining it by something that's gonna, like, physically present itself in front of you, like hit you like a brick to the face. And it's like, but if the divine worked that way, there would be no atheists. Like, if the divine worked that way, more people would be religious, because you couldn't. The whole point is that we have these arguments or these differing beliefs because there's no clear cut brick to the face proof, you know? So that's not the way this works. It's not going to be as definitive as you want it to be, you know, as our modern brains want it to be. So we kind of have to come to terms with that first. Yeah, exactly. It would become fact. Yes, I like that. You only get to say which path is right for you, not everyone else. Very, very true. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I get really mad when other people, that seems to be like a very big thing nowadays within the pagan and witchcraft community. I've noticed, and I don't know if you all have noticed that, it's a lot of commentary on what other people are doing. I feel like there's a lot less people talking about their own experiences and their own beliefs and their own thoughts around stuff, and a lot of commentary on what other people are doing and how it's wrong or hubris or, you know, not real. And I definitely admit I contributed to some of that, you know, but I'm trying going forward not to so much because I just don't find it helpful. And I don't know what other people, the only times I comment on what other people are doing is when they are negatively influencing other people. You know, they're doing the preaching, and saying things like, you know, the gods aren't your friends, so you're ridiculous if you think they're your friends, or the gods are they, you know, like, because then I have people coming into my inbox messaging me like, oh my God, am I doing something wrong? So I kind of have to talk about it a little bit in order just to kind of like ease people's worries and just show that, like, if that's what they believe, that's fine, but you don't have to believe that. And there are plenty of other people who have very different experiences. But I do feel like I just see a lot of commentary, specifically what's going on TikTok, which I'm actually not allowed to go on TikTok. Apollo's made it very clear I'm not allowed to go on TikTok, but it's a lot of whatever is happening on TikTok, and people are just and it's a lot of commentary on what other people are doing, which I know sometimes we have to have those conversations because people are doing really harmful and dangerous things. And I get that completely. But I mean, there's a difference between like educating people and mocking and insulting people. You know what I mean? Like there's a difference. And I feel like a lot of commentary is more on the mocking side of what, you know, because then I feel like even when we're mocking people who are saying things that are incorrect and everything, it's more of just giving liberty for anyone to mock anyone that's doing something different. I love that. Aries is my Welsh cop drama buddy, and those people can fight me over it. Yes! Yeah, there is no way. I mean, I have a whole podcast episode about doubt and skepticism, and I think doubt and skepticism are actually good things, and that we should have it, because that's when in my opinion, that's when your belief and your worship grows, when you have those doubts, and then you work on them, and then you end up finding the answers to them. So then it just kind of like cements your belief more. And also skepticism protects you from the bullshit online. When you have a brain that actually is thinking critically and goes, well, that doesn't seem plausible. Like a perfect, sorry, my lips are a little, when you like the hexing the moon situation. Let's talk about that. It's a perfect example. Being skeptical and thinking critically, you're like, how the fuck can anyone hex the moon? The moon is literally like the biggest source of cleansing energy. So how the fuck do you hex a source of cleansing energy? Especially, how do humans possess that amount of power to do that? That doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? So it's like, having that skepticism, you're able to, you don't fall for everything that you come across. Oh my God, yeah, I know. The hexing, I'll never get over the hexing the moon situation. I will never get over it. Yeah. I like that. Yeah, TikTok. That's what I just keep telling people. I'm like, because thankfully I haven't had any in a while, but I used to get people all the time coming into my inbox like they saw something on TikTok and now they're all, and they're upset about it and they're worried and they have fear and I'm like, if a video on TikTok is going to make you feel that way, maybe you shouldn't be on TikTok. Like you got to protect your peace and you have to know yourself. I just did a Delphic Maxim. I just did a Delphic Maxim right there. Look at that. Apollo, you must be proud of me. I did that without even thinking about it. It just happened. Know yourself. But you do. You have to know. I kind of really want to do, and you guys let me know if this is something you're interested in doing like a whole thing about navigating the internet safely, because I feel like that's something that needs to get taught more. I mean, not even just in our community, but as a whole, because the internet is extremely influential on us, especially the younger generations. And I think we as a species needs to be investing more time and money and energy in educating younger people on how to navigate the internet and also making the internet more like of a safer place for younger people and honestly people in general. So, and the thing is our community and everything is primarily based online. So part of, I think, being whether it's you're a Hellenic polytheist, a pagan, a witch, any of the terms that fall under those categories, you kind of have to learn how to safely exist on the internet and how to deal with hate, how to deal with people that have different beliefs than you, how to spot the red flags, getting comfortable with the block button, all these things. And a lot of it too is about knowing you and knowing the things that are going to trigger you and upset you. And if a certain environment like TikTok is making you feel so much fear and making you turn on your gods like that, where, because some stranger who you don't even know is saying something and now the gods who you do know, now you're like doubting them and all the experiences you had with them, you got to then think about, is this the correct environment for me? And also maybe I need to work on that. Like, why is some random person's opinion on the internet enough to get to me like that? And I'm not saying that as a criticism or like looking down on somebody, because I have the same problem. And I've realized for me, it's because it links back to my childhood trauma and all the gaslighting I went through that has informed me that my perception of things is not correct. My perception of things is wrong. And I need to believe other people because they know better than me. That's what gaslighting does. Gaslighting and a lot of mental and emotional abuse makes you doubt yourself and doubt the way you're perceiving the world because you've been led. What the gaslighting does, it makes you, oh my God, it literally makes you feel like you're, I don't want to use the word crazy, but it makes you feel that way. It makes you feel crazy. Like you're not experiencing what you're supposed to be experiencing, or you're not perceiving what you're supposed to be perceiving. And so you're led to believe that everybody else knows better than you. And I realized that, being on the internet, and when other people would tell me that what I was experiencing was wrong, to me, it triggered that conditioning in my brain. It triggered that gaslighting and that abuse, and being like, oh, that person must know better than me because I'm always wrong. Clearly they know something that I don't. And it was hard, especially because it's like I went into this platform without knowing any of that stuff about me. I kind of it all kind of happened. I had this platform, and then I started learning more about my trauma and everything. And it's just, then I started seeing the intersections of it and how being on the internet was triggering a lot of things for me and where it was coming from. So, I actually am kind of grateful for having this platform for many reasons, but one of it was that it really helped me pinpoint a lot of my own issues fairly easily. I think if I didn't have it, I think it would have taken me a lot longer to realize these things. But my whole thing is that because I'm like that, I kind of had to really think about how I exist on the internet, and I had to prioritize my own healing and how to deal with people who trigger me like that. And one of the big things that I've decided to do is I don't engage with anyone like that. Anybody who, I kind of stay away from people who are very like, my way is right. And I also, anybody who comes into my space and tries to invalidate what I go through instead of having like a discussion about it, because I'm open to sharing different experiences and saying, oh, but I don't experience it that way. This is how I experience. Or even if I'm talking about something and they're like, oh, I don't think I agree with that. And to have I'm fine with disagreements. I'm completely fine, but there's a way to do it that doesn't completely invalidate the other person or insult them. And unfortunately, a lot of people on the internet don't know how to have a disagreement or to share differing beliefs without being an asshole. So with those people, I just block. I don't interact. I just block because I have to prioritize my mental health and, myself. I always talk about wanting to create safe spaces for my followers, which I do, but I also have to create safe space for myself, because one of the reasons that I kind of vanished for a while was because I was having a hard time dealing with the hate I was receiving. I mean, I didn't just receive a lot of it. Thankfully, I receive way more love than I do hate, but because of the way my brain is built and conditioned, I focus more on the negative than I do the positive. And because of, the gaslighting and everything, my brain is like, oh, those people are right and I'm wrong. I have to reevaluate things, and, I was doubting myself. So it's kind of, so I understand where people are coming from when they're on TikTok and they get very triggered by certain things, but it's like you kind of have to begin realizing that this isn't so much about the gods as it is about your own conditioning, your own trauma, your own mental illnesses, your own negative thoughts or intrusive thoughts or whatever it is. It's about you and the things that has happened to you. And you kind of have to prioritize. You have to realize that, oh, maybe this isn't a good environment for me now. You know, maybe I need to take a step back, focus on my healing, maybe in the future I can go back on that platform and not be so triggered. Oh, bye, Cords. Thanks for hanging out. I've never had any experiences with the Norse deities, actually. It's funny, me and Nathan were talking about that on Friday, and I've never experienced the Norse deities. I respect them highly, but I've never felt a call to them ever. The only other pantheons I've ever had experiences with is I have experiences with Anubis, and I am slowly getting experiences with the Irish deities. Specifically, I have a little bit with Bridget. But that's it. Those are pretty much the only pantheons I feel comfortable or feel any kind of desire to interact with. It's always been the Greek gods. I've loved them my whole life. So they just, I'm like, eh. Even Apollo's just like, I don't know why, like, you have everything you need here. It's like, we have a god for that. What do you need? We have a god for that. You don't need to leave Greece. Yes, cutting off toxic people, like, you have to. You have to. You just gotta, some people, it's just not worth it. It's really, really not. And you surround yourself with people that make you feel good, and it's not, I think people get confused and they think like you're surrounding yourself with people who are yes men or who are like never going to challenge you or hold you accountable. But that's not, when I block people, it's not because I don't want to be held accountable or I don't want to be criticized or I don't want anyone to have differing beliefs in me. I just want some human decency. That's really what I'm asking for, because you can share, you can hold me accountable. Like, if I said something wrong, you can tell me that without insulting me. You could say, listen, that ain't it, and here's why. You can even criticize certain things that I say without insulting me. You can have a differing belief, a thought, or opinion on something without insulting me. That's all I'm asking for. I'm like, just don't insult me. Show me some human decency, because the one thing that I've noticed in my whole healing journey is I've come to the place where I'm starting to know and accept of what I deserve. And I know I deserve human decency. I mean, we all do. But it's like I'm completely like absorbing that into me is, I know I deserve human decency. And I'm not asking for a lot by simply just saying, hey, can you just show me some human decency? Thanks. Yeah, I don't really know other pantheons well at all either. The only other one I know, and I don't even really know it as well as I do the Hellenic one, is the Egyptian one. But other than that, like, my whole journey with Irish paganism is so surreal, because it's like I know nothing. I'm starting from like just bottom, just no knowledge whatsoever, and I don't know that feeling, because I've been like reading about ancient Greece my whole life. So when I decided to start worshiping the gods, I already had knowledge to build upon, and in this case I have nothing. So, but it's been like a really fun journey. I'm really enjoying it. I'm interested into seeing how I'm going to communicate with those gods. you know? I don't know if it's going to be different or the same or, I don't know. I know, but it does feel like that. You do feel like you're asking a lot to just ask for human decency, but you're not. You're asking for the bare minimum. And not even the bare minimum. I feel like you're just asking for something that literally, like, people shouldn't even be thinking about. You should just do, like, breathing. Like, and that's what I kind of had to accept, is that there's nothing wrong with asking for human decency, and there's nothing wrong with blocking people who can't give me that. Because I know I deserve it. I know that whatever it is that they're mad at me about doesn't negate me deserving human decency. I think I'm somebody that I'm never looking to cause harm. I'm never looking to hurt anybody. I'm not out here knowing like purposefully trying to do damage or spread false and dangerous information. My purpose on here is just to talk to people and form community and maybe help some people by just sharing my experiences and being a little bit vulnerable, connect with my fellow humans and my fellow Hellenic polytheists and love on the gods, honor the gods through creating space where we can learn more and educate each other. Like, that's my goal. And so I know the person I am. So I know that I am deserving of human decency. And it took a while to get to that point. It really did. It took a while because I did feel like I was asking a lot, or I felt like, especially because the culture on the internet is very much like, if you fuck up, you deserve to be treated like garbage. That's very the culture of the internet right now, is that if you made any kind of mistake, it gives people the right to be nasty to you and to insult you, and you're supposed to just sit there and take it and be like, I'm sorry. And that's not, I just don't agree with that. I think because the idea is that human beings, we mess up gloriously. Like, nobody fucks up like a human being. Like, that's how we learn, is we make mistakes, like it's going to happen. It's going to happen, and we all do it. So you would think that we'd offer each other more grace, because it's like, we've all been there. We've all been in a position where we fucked up. And so the whole, like, treating people like garbage for fucking up is kind of saying, like, as if those people never made a mistake in their life. And it's like, we know that's not true. For me, it's always, I think what says the most about a person isn't the mistake itself, but how they handle the mistake. I think that says more about a person. But you don't give people an option to, you don't give people the option to really, like, process the mistake and understand where they fucked up and to make amends for it if you're screaming at them or treating them like garbage and telling them that they're less than human, or that, they're a terrible, terrible person. Like, you're not giving them that space to actually, like, digest what's being said to them and being like, okay, but in a lot of ways, though, a lot of the shit that I deal with personally isn't even about making mistakes. It's just about people having very different opinions than I do. which is like, if I'm not your cup of tea, like, babe, there are plenty of other Hellenic polytheists out there that you can talk to or support. Like, block me and move on. Like, you don't need to be a jerk. Like, what is that going to do? I don't know. That's the thing that I don't get. It's just sort of, okay, you don't see the gods the way that I see them. That's fine. Or you just don't like me. I don't know. Like, that's fine. That's the beauty of our community and the internet is there are plenty of other people that you can get your content from then, It's not just me. There's plenty of reconstructionists out there that try to do it by the book, I don't. And I make that very clear. I'm not a reconstructionist. So if that's what you're looking for, like, why are you even bothering, So yeah, that was my whole rant. I should probably, oh, thank you. Oh, I'm glad I could help people. I like the idea of bringing gods and worshipers together. That's kind of, I feel like a lot of what I do is just kind of helping people get over certain hangups that they have, or worries and fears that they have, so they can have really fulfilling personal and deep connections with the gods. Because for me, it's based a lot on my experiences and how profound they've been in my life. Like, I'm such a different person today than I was before because of the gods. And it's an avenue I want to offer to other people who have similar struggles that I do, and maybe even different struggles, but that having the gods in your life can kind of help, you find whatever it is you're looking for, whether it be healing, whether that be community, whether that be self-love, whatever it is that you're looking for. I kind of feel like the gods can help you find it and cultivate it. And that's sort of I guess it's like my brand. It's my brand of Hellenic polytheism, is very much, it's deity work, essentially, which I definitely want to talk a lot more about in a future either live stream or podcast episode, is the idea of deity work and having a work-based worship, because that's my thing. I don't really give physical offerings. Sometimes I do if I feel called to it, but my worship of the gods is much more based on the work I do, both for myself and for others, and for the world as a whole. That's just how I like to go about working with the gods. But some people don't, and that's fine. That's the beauty, is there's all different roads that lead to the divine. Yeah, I like that, a hodgepodge of what I like and what works for me. But I think it's just like, that's what I like. I like creating personal, like building a personal worship. I love that idea. And and this is my thought. Again, I'm not saying this is fact. Got to preface that with this. I believe that the gods like it too. I think the gods like the variety because it's different. I think they also like a more reconstructionist way of doing it because it's nostalgic. Who doesn't love some nostalgia? Like, I think they like that because it's nostalgic, and I think that's nice. It reminds them of the time when they were the center of the world, and I think they it brings back nice memories for them. And I think they enjoy seeing modern worshipers get joy from doing it the traditional way. I think they love that. But I also think they love seeing what the modern era can offer them and the new ways that people can find to honor them and worship them and everything. I think they like the excitement of it because it's different. Everyone has a different way of showing their love to the gods, and I think they enjoy seeing our personalities come out in our worship. You know what I mean? Our distinct marks. And yeah, so that's my belief. I think they love both. And anyway, we went off on a bunch of tangents, but I kind of had a feeling that was going to happen because this is my live streams, and we ultimately like to have different kinds of conversations and come together as a community and talk. But before I head out, I want to make sure that I touched on some things in communicating with deities, because I did want to make sure I answered your guys' questions about it. So if there's anything that you have that that you want clarified, or that I didn't touch on, a question that I didn't answer, I want to put it in. Okay. Yep. Question, funny story. Yeah. If you want to share something too, feel free to put it in the chat. It is amazing how they've managed to have so many followers. I think they love that. I think it's, because they're used to it in one way, because, they were worshipped all around the Mediterranean and everything. So they're in the known world, at least, their known world. But now the world is way bigger, and they're worshipped all over. And I think they love that. And I think they especially love it too, because then you have all these diverse ways of worship, because, we are a product of our cultures, so we bring different ideas and values and methods to the table. Things that they, not to say they haven't seen it before, but they haven't seen it worked in worship to them, and I think it excites them. Do you ever watch those YouTube pick a card videos? I watched one about who your spirit guides are, and I was drawn to two piles, and the first pile described Aries, and the second one described Aphrodite. Ooh. I've actually never watched any of those. I do the ones on Instagram where they have pick a card, and then they have the meanings and the either in another post or whatever. I've done those, but I've never done the videos. But that's cool. Aries and Aphrodite, that's an A+ team right there. That is an A+ team. I love those two so much. You wouldn't happen to have any ideas for when? Oh, having ideas. Okay. Of what to do with your prayer beads. There's a lot of things you can do with prayer beads. Well, you could, it's going to sound real snarky, but it's not, but you pray with them. But actually, I do like to, I have prayer beads for Aphrodite, and I also have prayer bracelets for Apollo and Artemis. And what I do is I like to hold them when I'm either praying or meditating, because it just helps I feel like it helps me like feel their energy and bring in their energy. You can also do it like a mantra too, because I know Hearthfire Handworks, I think I said that right, is that's where I get all of my prayer beads from, because they have the best prayer beads, and they usually bring in like a little prayer that you do, and it's kind of set up similar to where like how Christians, you know, do the rosary, or even I think like mantra beads or whatever, where it's like each bead you go through and you say a little prayer or you say a little mantra. So you could do something like that. Try and think. You can use them if you do spells. You can also do them. You can also use them in spell work to kind of like symbolize a certain deity's energy or certain energy that like you want to bring in. So like if you're doing a self-love spell, those would be a great, like an Aphrodite prayer beads would be good for that. It's also nice to have them just like treat them like something you carry around with you to just pull out to just remind you of the god. Well, for you would be Dionysus, to remind you of Dionysus. Like if you feeling really overwhelmed when you're out or just really upset and you just need that like burst of like his energy, you could just grab those and like hold them, and you can, you know, maybe have like their energy absorb around you and all that. And you can also wear it as devotional jewelry, depending. There's a lot of different things, but yeah, I like to use mine in prayer and meditation as just sort of, because I like tangible. I like things in my hands, so that helps. It helps ground me and helps keep me focused on what I'm doing. Yeah, I think that's, you can do the whole like have a prayer that goes with them, and do the whole like something for each bead that you repeat. Not necessarily each bead, because it'll probably be a lot, but like a set, and you just like as you go through, you just repeat over and over and over and over again. You can also, when you get them, you can actually ask Dionysus to bless them for you and kind of imbue his energy into it, so that it even more will feel like them, you know. It'll feel like their energy. Oh, that was really nice. They were a gift. That's really nice. You can also use prayer beads as a representation of a god too. Like if you don't have a statue or an image or something, you can also use them to kind of fill in for a reputation. A representation. There we go. There we go. Okay. Any questions about communication before I leave you all to the rest of your Sunday? Just want to make sure I answered everything. Next Sunday, we'll be talking about Artemis. I'm really excited. You don't have to really, okay, let me just, before I head out, because this is another topic that I've been seeing a lot about, is about feeling bad about that we can't offer certain things. Water is not only a sufficient offering, it's a great offering, because remember that clean water was not always available, and actually it is not available to some people today. So clean water is a wonderful offering to the gods, especially because they know a time when access to clean water was nearly impossible. So don't knock the water, you know, and honestly, anything that you also can give them, they're happy with. It's really, yes, like the whole thing is it's based on what you have access to. You know, if you are somebody, like if you are Jeff Bezos and you are giving the gods a peanut, that's not going to fly because the gods know you can offer more. You know what I mean? But if you're just an ordinary person, or even like someone younger who doesn't have access to an income, you know, or you work part-time minimum wage, they know what you're able to give them. And so it's based on your, you know, what you have access to and what you're able to give them. So don't feel bad if, you know, you can only share part of your sandwich, or you found a really cool rock on the ground and it just made you, like, you look at that rock and you're like, I don't know, I don't know who would like, Hermes would really like this rock. Hermes seems like a guy who would really like rocks. No, Artemis would like rocks. Artemis would totally like rocks. She'd be like, hell yeah, this is a weapon. She's like, it's a weapon. Thank you. You know, like I think with them, it really is, a lot of it is about the thought that counts. You know what I mean? Like if you genuinely are like, I want to give this to you, they're happy with it. So I've also experienced with the gods a lot with that, like they would help me even when I didn't give them anything. Like my whole relationship with Hermes in the beginning was him. He showed up. I did not ask him. Nobody nobody called for this man and his malarkey to show up, but he did. And he helped me with my driving anxiety, and I didn't ask him for that, and I didn't, at the time, I didn't offer him anything, but that didn't stop him from helping me. You know, a lot of the gods it's not, yes, is it nice and polite and respectful to kind of have that exchange? But I think just like with human relationships, like when your friend does something to you, do you automatically have to do something back for them? I mean, I hope not. I think, at least in my friendships, we don't do that. We don't keep count. And it's like, well, you did this for me, so I should do this for you. Or I did this for you, so you should do this for me. It's not like that. You know, we're friends. I know that at some point, what I do is gonna come back, because that's just, you know, like I'll randomly decide to pay for our lunch or whatever, because I know at another point in time she'll do it. Doesn't need to be right after the next time we go out. And one day she'll do it. That's exactly what happened. Recently, I decided to treat her because I got really excited that I have an income now where I can actually, you know, like spoil people in my life. And I think we hadn't really seen each other because of, you know, COVID and us having new jobs, you know, and everything. And we finally saw each other, and I wanted to treat her. I got really, you know, I just wanted to do that. I felt called to do that. And it wasn't because I wanted to get anything back from her. But we went out the other day and she treated me. She surprised me. She's like, I got it, you know? And that's how our friendship works. You know, one of us will do, it's just, you don't think about it. And I personally feel like that's how it is also with the gods. You know what I mean? I think they're not looking to get something every single time they do something for you. You know what I mean? Because I think they know eventually, like, you'll see something or you'll just feel like, I'm going to give this to you. You know, I don't know. That's how I see it as. Oh, have a good night. I'm glad you enjoyed the live stream. You're welcome. I hope that helped. Oh my God, devotional activities are my jam. Somebody called me the queen of devotional activities, and I was like, I will accept that title. I will put that crown on my head. I love that. That's my thing. I do devotional activities all the time. Like as I said before, like my worship is work-based mainly. Every once in a while I give physical offerings, but I do that when I feel called to. It's not kind of a routine in my worship. Yes, consistency. I like that. There was actually a whole story about how Apollo, this one rich guy, asked the Pythia who Apollo's favorite worshiper or follower was, and the Pythia said it was this man who gave humble offerings at all the festivals and the holy days and everything. And even though this one person who was asking, the rich man gave like extravagant gifts, but like only when he wanted something, and only like when he felt like it, kind of thing. Like not, like it was kind of clearly it was seen, it was more of like a show of his wealth as opposed to his devotion to Apollo, while the other person was giving very humble offerings, but he was doing it consistently on all the holy days and the festivals. So he was showing his devotion to Apollo that way, and it showed that Apollo appreciated the humble offerings and the consistency as opposed to the extravagant gifts. Excuse me. Yes, that's my favorite part of devotional acts, is the fact that they're a win-win situation. The gods get something, but you also get something, because you turn everyday things that you need to do, that you should be doing, but that are hard to do, like just taking care of yourself, like keeping yourself alive and functioning. You turn that into a ritual. It becomes part of your religion. So then you are more likely to do it. So things like taking a shower or exercising or making sure you eat, and even things that like you don't necessarily enjoy doing, like having to run certain errands maybe, or going to, the doctor, going to the dentist, and all those things. All of that can be devotional acts. And it helps you do these things. It's kind of also like tricking your brain, kind of like a mind hack kind of thing, where your brain's like, I don't want to do this. But then now when it becomes a ritual, it becomes religion, you look at it differently. I think they do appreciate us being there on their special days. Like, I know, like, I've kind of pulled back from celebrating a lot of the Hellenic festivals because I have my own thoughts about the calendar. But the one thing that I knew I'd have to celebrate is the twins' birthday. So I still have to figure out what I'm doing for that, because I have no idea. Because that's coming up. So I have to, but that one, they were like, you celebrate our birthday, right? Like, yes, gotta celebrate your birthday. But I think it's just about, I think it's also mainly about consistency and the consistency that you've chosen. Like, I don't think it necessarily has to be like if you're an Apollo devotee, I don't think it has to be, you have to specifically celebrate the 7th of every month, or you have to celebrate all of his festivals. I think you can decide what those special occasions are, what those special days are, what those holy days are. And I think it's, if you laid that out and then you stuck with it, that would still count. You know, I don't think you have to do it any specific way. Yeah, I consume my offerings as well. I can't in good conscience like throw any food out that's good. It would hurt my heart too much. So I actually also, sometimes what I do is I don't even offer it, like give them their own plate or whatever. What I do is if I'm eating something, I'll say like, you can partake in this with me, kind of thing. And I do it that way. Sometimes they just do it anyway. Like I feel Hermes is notorious for that. I don't know if any of you have experience like that with Hermes, where he just helps himself to your food. He does that with me all the time. Or he isn't even, he's just like, you gonna give me some of that? He's like, excuse me, I'm standing right here. You're gonna eat in front of me and not offer me any? Like, oh my God, okay. I don't work with any chthonic deities that are like strictly chthonic deities. The ones that I work with, I've worked with Persephone and Hermes, and they're, on the border because, they exist in both realms. So that could be why it's okay for me to eat their offerings, but I don't know. Oh, that's cute. Offer bird seeds for the wild birds outside for Artemis and Hermes. I like that. Oh, that's good. True. Yeah, no, I think it goes back to that whole the whole sentiment about they look at you as an individual and what you can offer. Like what, kind of like what I said before, like if Jeff Bezos gave them a stick of gum, they'd be like, the fuck? It's kind of that applied to everything though. Like they look at you as an individual and your own struggles and your own energy levels, your spoon levels, the way your life is set up, and so they know what you can realistically do. And when you are struggling, they understand why you are, and that's why I believe that they're not the type to punish you. Like if you did have a whole schedule set up where you're like going to offer, like certain offerings to the gods on certain days, and you missed a day because you're somebody who has a chronic illness and that you had a flare up that day, they're not going to punish you because they know you have a chronic illness and you had a flare up. They're going to be like, it makes complete sense. Like they're not going to do that because they know you. There's a big difference between not doing something. I don't even know, because I feel like this is the same thing as depression versus laziness, where it's like, I actually think laziness is like 100% a myth. And like, there's typically other things at play as to why you're not doing certain things, whether it's because, you're chronically ill, you're mentally ill, you're neurodivergent. So, doing things is like hard because your brain works against you. There's all these other things that typically get in the way of you doing stuff that you know you have to do, and even things that you want to do. It's not laziness. So I feel like even that applies even with worship, because I feel like we get so caught up in like, oh, I'm just making excuses. And it's like, but is it an excuse, or is it's like, do you have a valid reason? You know, is it because like, and it doesn't even need to be one of those things where it's like you have mental illnesses and your mental illnesses was acting up that day, or you have a flare up and you're chronically ill, or you know, you're neurodivergent, so sometimes, you know, remembering to do certain things, even though you do it, you have reminders, you know, that's just your brain just decides to work. It's the way that it works, you know? And so it's just struggling to try to figure out how to do worship that works for you, you know? But even without all that, sometimes it's also just like capitalism, you know? Like we go to work, we come home, we're fucking exhausted. You know, we're just so fucking exhausted. You come home, you have to make dinner, you have to, you know, if you have kids, you gotta take care of them. If you have other responsibilities, you gotta do that. Like there is so much that we have to do in our lives that it's like you're just fucking exhausted. And I think because that's what I'm dealing with a lot with my, not even just my worship, but my witchcraft, is like wanting to do more of these things. But it's like, and I think that though is one of the reasons why I also push for devotional acts, because you can save time and energy by making things that you already do and already have to do into a ritual for the gods. So making dinner, that can be a thing that you do for Hestia, or that's a thing that you do for Demeter, or that's a thing you do for Apollo, you know, that can be, or if you're a witch, you can do kitchen witchery, you know, when you can offer the food you made to them as you're eating it. When you take a shower, you can have that as being a devotional act. Having a bedtime routine can be a devotional act. You know, it helps when it's something you're already doing, and it saves time and energy. And it also kind of just helps you feel, because I know that we all go through those spaces of feeling like we're bad worshipers because we don't do as much as we think we should be doing for them, because we love them so much and they do so much for us that we want to reciprocate that. Even though we don't have to, we want to. But because of the way the world is, it's really hard to find the time and the energy to do that, you know? I think there's some people who are sitting there like, you know, doing all these great things, and good for them, but it's hard. It's really hard. I'm trying my best to really get more into having routines in my life. Specifically a morning routine that incorporates, you know, stuff to just help me have a good day, but also ones that can help me connect with the gods, because that's where I have my time. I like, that's the best. I've realized that the best way to do is like best time to do it is the morning, because when I get home, I'm just exhausted. I'm so tired, you know, and I just kind of want to eat dinner. I want to relax. I have Moo to take care of because she's been home all by herself. So she's like up my butt. Like, play with me, mom. I missed you. So, you know, oh, by the way, though, taking care of Moo, you have, if you have any animals, taking care of them is a devotional act. So yeah, like, I just realized that it's just kind of like I'm likely not going to do much of anything when I come home. It's best to do things in the morning. I weirdly have more energy in the morning. It is not. Yes. Capitalism is not productive to living a happy, well-rounded life. It's very true. But that's important though. Like, that's another thing. Like, having, like, if you get sick, you should absolutely put everything on hold because your main focus needs to be you and resting and feeling better. And to me, I know that's what the gods would want. Apollo, especially. Apollo's a doctor. He's like, what are you doing? Like, I can imagine somebody just like trying to like bring themselves to their altar. Like, I gotta make my offerings. And Apollo being like, the fuck are you doing? Get your ass back to bed. Doctor's orders. He wouldn't curse though. Apollo doesn't curse, at least not around me. He doesn't curse. I say he does, but he doesn't. But yeah, like, the thing is too, it's not even just about being physically sick. It's also like if your mental illness is really acting up and like kicking your ass, like mine does in the winter, absolutely take a break. Focus on you, like, because as we've also talked about throughout this whole stream, is it's not good to even attempt to interact or interact and communicate with the gods when you're in a bad mental state, because it's very likely you're going to interpret things negatively that hurt you and your relationship with the gods. So sometimes it is better to take a step back and focus on you. And then, once you're ready and in a better place, then go and pick everything back up. Oh, Apollo is so good at making sure that people take their medication. In my experience, I don't think he only sends healing to those in need. I mean, I've always said that I don't necessarily like speculating on the gods in a grander scale than just me as an individual and people as individuals, because it's just, I think it's a lot more complicated in a lot of ways to just kind of make generalizations about everything in, the way the world works. And then, because then you're bringing ethics and things into it. And it's just like, I like to think, though, because my belief specifically, it kind of relates in terms of like COVID, because there was a lot of conversations about, whether Apollo was the cause of COVID and things like that. I believe Apollo was part of getting the vaccine. So that was bringing healing to not even people necessarily in need, but to everybody, So that's my belief on that. But all I know is Apollo wants me to heal, and that's my focus. It gets a little dicey when you begin to kind of think of the gods on a broader level and their influence on the world as a whole. Especially because there's so many like different beliefs and different gods and different religions out there, that then you begin to kind of like push certain narratives on other people, kind of like when Christians talk about God in terms of, when natural disasters happen, or when just anything on a global or grander scale happen and they bring God into it. I know I never liked that, because it's like not everybody believes in God. Not everybody, follows or worships God, at least, and not even, or even the version of God that they're talking about. So I feel like thinking of them in such a grand way like that sort of kind, like, is a little pushy, I guess is the best way to say it. It's like I'm pushing my beliefs on other people, and I don't like doing that. So that's why I always focus more on the individual and the way the gods influence an individual, because it's I feel like it's safer, and it's a little, yeah, it's a little less generalizing. Yeah, it's just sort of like, I mean, I can understand people wanting to think like that because it's natural to think in those. But I kind of realized, especially with everything that happened with COVID, because there was a lot of conversation around Apollo and COVID and things like that. And that's when it made me realize that those conversations make me really uncomfortable. And it's because it's hard not to step on other people's toes. I think that's the best way to say it. It's hard not to step on other people's toes when you put the gods on the world stage like that. And as we talk throughout this whole live stream, the last thing I want to do is be preaching, preaching to people. And I feel like when you start to do that, you're preaching to people, because you're saying, well, this God is having an influence on your life, whether without knowing them or knowing who they're, who they worship, if they even believe in gods, it's just sort of, yeah, you're just stepping on people's toes and going into a little shady place, I think. A little dicey. Anyone who says cats are an easy pet never had cats. That's true. They can be. But the thing about cats is they're kind of unpredictable. At least my cat is, because she'll have days where she's like, a perfect example is what you just witnessed here with Moo. I've had times where I Skype and do things, like I was Skyping with Nathan on Friday, and she was not acting like that at all. Like, in the beginning, she kind of like roamed around, but then she ended up just laying down and took a nap for most of the time that we were on. She was fine. And then today, she's like, oh my God, you're doing a live stream? I'm gonna rub up on everything. I'm gonna be all up in your business, and then I'm gonna bite you, and I'm gonna be all like, I'm gonna make all this noise, and I'm gonna be just a little terror and a little scutch. She's just unpredictable. I've been saying this to my coworkers. Like, I can have something in the room, and she'll ignore it for like months. She won't even look at it. She won't sniff it. She will ignore it for months. And then one day, it is all she wants to do is play with, attack it, whatever she can't get her attention off the thing. And I'm like, this has been sitting here for months. I have not moved it. I have not touched it. And now you just became aware of its existence, and this is all you want to do now. So that's the thing. Cats are unpredictable. You don't know. They're very moody. You come, some days I come home from work and she's like, okay, you're home. Okay, give me my food. Give me my treats. Okay, bye. And she'll just go back to sleep, and she does her own thing, and she doesn't care. And then other days, she's up my butt. She's like, what are you doing? I'm gonna follow you around. What's that you got? Let me sniff it. I want to. And it's It's like having a perpetual toddler, I swear. A Q-tip, that's my favorite thing about cats too, is you get them these fancy, wonderful toys, but they want to play with garbage on the floor. And they will find the garbage. You know, they'll find it. The one, like, you'll have like one piece of something that fell on the floor that you didn't, like, you weren't aware of, or just at the time you were too lazy to pick it up and then you just forgot about it. And then your cat will find it. Your cat will find it. Cats. You're excited. Oh my god, you're gonna see Hades Town? I saw Hades Town. It was fantastic. It's my favorite. It's my favorite musical. Seriously, it's so good. If you can see it, go see it. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. It was amazing. I actually really liked the depictions in it because it was, in my mind, it was a little bit more real. I liked that it was kind of like Hades and Persephone. You know, it was like they were going through their marriage troubles. Like, they've been married for so long that now they're kind of like, you know, they're having problems and everything. And I loved Persephone. Oh, the person who plays Persephone is fucking fantastic. It was Amber Gray is her name, right? I think. She's fucking fantastic. And she, the way she plays her, she's got like this, she's just got this swag and this like just attitude about her that I love, that you don't usually see Persephone have. You know, they always make Persephone very like either really innocent, like a very Kore kind of, like really innocent and girly and like, you know, naive and shy, or she's like the dark queen and very like mean and, you know, I don't know, just the very whatever dark queen kind of whatever things you associate with that, like that's kind of how she is, that like how people perceive her. But it was like in Hades Town, I loved, like, she just was kind of like fed up. Like, she just kind of had like a, well, fuck this attitude. She's like, fine. Like, she wanted to party, you know, she was just very like, nah, well, fine, I guess I have to deal with this. Like, I just loved her attitude. It was so good. And Hades was definitely a lot more closer to how I picture Hades. Hermes was the best. I fucking love Hermes. Oh my god, he's so good. I loved him with Orpheus. I loved in the beginning when he's like, "Oh, you want to talk to her?" And like, Hermes is basically Orpheus's wingman, and I love it. He's like, "You want to talk to her?" And he's like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Orpheus, don't come on too strong." And then Orpheus goes up to Eurydice and goes, "I want to marry you." Like, marry me. And Hermes is like, oh my god. I love that whole beginning song where like Hermes is basically Orpheus's wingman. Like, I loved, like, yeah, and then Eurydice looks at Hermes and goes, "Is he always like this?" And Hermes is like, "Yeah." So good. Oh, that's so sad. Oh, I'm glad you got to go though. Okay. Like, oh no, right before lockdown. No, that's so sad. But no, I'm glad you got to see it. Hades Town sounds like a good Animal Crossing island name. I love that. Oh, Thebes. Oh, Thebes. Thebes is the cursed city. Is your island cursed? Has got a lot of shenanigans going on there. I named mine Delos. Because, you know, Apollo. Oh my god, is everyone, what, you all naming your place Thebes? What? You're gonna curse it. You naming it Thebes. Everything bad happens in Thebes. Yeah, it was nice to see. That's my whole thing, like, with retellings of mythology, and I've always said this, is I don't need it to be exactly like the original. I like it when people venture out there and do something different and bring their own experiences to it. But the problem becomes when it's the same thing over and over and over and over again. So that's why I also really liked Hades Town, was because it was different. It wasn't the same, like, it wasn't this whole like Hades and Persephone versus Demeter kind of attitude. It was actually like Hades and Persephone, having been married for so long, they kind of forgot how to love each other, and it was Orpheus who had to kind of teach them that again, and it was a really beautiful story, and I liked that it was set in that kind of stage for them, that it wasn't, they had been married for a long time, like everything had already happened, the whole thing of her being like kidnapped, and the seasons changing when she leaves and goes, and it already happened, and this is like way into their marriage, and I just liked that take on it because it was very different. And again, too, we're exploring more, like, not necessarily age, but it is kind of like aging. Like, we're exploring areas that a lot of things, like, our media as a whole is so much more concerned with like teenagers and people in their 20s, and putting the emphasis that this is the best time of your life, and this is the most interesting time of your life, and then everything after that that's it, like, who fucking cares? When I'm telling you, for any of you who are still in your 20s or even in your teens, I can tell you my life got instantly better the day I turned 30. And I'm not the only one to say that. All of my friends who are in their 30s have said the same thing. You could not pay me enough money to go back to my teens or my 20s. You can't. And I know for a lot of people, like, that, those were the good times. For me, it was not. It was not the good times. Now I am having the good times, and I am enjoying my life way more than I ever did in the past. So, but our society has this kind of like obsession with teens and 20 somethings, and that, like, that's the time and that period of your life that's supposed to be the exciting part, and like relationships when they first start out and they first blossom and things like that. And then once we move past that, then it's like there's no interest anymore. So I really liked that the show was focused on this couple. It was both, essentially, because Orpheus and Eurydice, their relationship had just started blooming, so you had that with also Hades and Persephone, who had that at one point, but they had lost it and they're trying to find it again. And I liked that. I cannot bring myself to care about teenager problems anymore. I think that's why I was not a big fan of Euphoria. I watched Euphoria and it's okay. Like, I can see why people like it, but I was just like, what the fuck is even going on here? Like, these are teenagers? Like, is this how teenagers live now? Like, what? Like, what teenage? Like, where are the adults? Like, this is so That's when you know you really became an adult, when like when you watch stuff that's centered around teenagers and your first thought is, where are the adults? Like, I was watching Romeo and Juliet. If you guys follow me on Instagram, you'd see my stories, but I was watching Romeo and Juliet, and all I'm thinking is, I'm like, what are these adults doing? They're so terrible. Like, that's what this whole play is about. It's not about love or anything. It's about how shitty adults are a danger to teenagers. Like, and even, oh my God, watching any of the Spider-Man movies, the whole time I'm just like, freaking Peter Parker needs a real adult here, okay? Not fucking Tony Stark, who I don't know what the hell he's doing, but we need actual adults because he is a teenager. Why is he doing this? Who said this was okay? Aunt May, why are you letting him do this? I love you, but why are you letting him do this? Somebody, like, he needs to go to school. He needs to get an education. He is a child. He is a baby. Okay? Like, that's, I realize I've hit that, especially because I'm Cancerian, so I'm just naturally, like, parental. Like, I just want to take care of everybody. I just have that in me where I'm adopting everybody. Like, so watching any shows that have to do, or movies that have to do with teenagers, typically I'm just like, where are the adults? Where are the adults? All right. Okay, I think I went over than what I was planning to, but we talked about a lot of fun things. It's only 4 of us now. Well, 5, including me. All right. I guess this is a good time to head off. Sign off, head off, sign off. That the fact that I can't talk is probably a sign that it's time to go. But I hope. Yeah, exactly. The adults are fighting Peter. Exactly. I hope this live stream was informative and helpful. And yes, next one, we're going to be talking about Artemis. I have a lot to say about Artemis. It's probably going to get a little ranty. So be prepared for that. Good, I'm glad that you had a great time. I had a wonderful time. It's exactly how I wanted to spend my Sunday. I needed this. Oh, I'm so glad. Thank you all for joining in. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful week. I will see you here next Sunday. And yeah, like I said, we're going to talk about Artemis. So bring any questions, thoughts, experiences you have that you want to share. Yeah, I think that's it. Okay. Enjoy the rest of your day and have a great week. Bye, guys.